Sounds good to me. All right, we're live.
Hello, Weekend Warriors. Welcome to the Weekend Dojo with Ace Red and El Chizo reviews. Tonight
Hey,
we are talking DC Comics because of all the craze going on right now. But here's the thing: we're gonna go from the Golden Age all the way up to the Dark Knight trilogy and completely ignore the DCEU because it's already dying.
yeah, and I think I know why.
Oh,
They
we
ain't
don't.
done this yet.
Yeah, we don't even have to explain why. The movies themselves are pretty self-explanatory. Cough. Superman's not Batman. Cough.
All right, so I guess what we'll do is, shall we
Let's
start at
go.
the Golden Age?
Yeah, let's do it year by year in order. And since we're gonna have to go, you cover from everything up to our first live action, like our most memorable live action DC character. I think we'll start. You'll cover comics all the way up to George Reeves' Superman TV show. I'll cover that. Then you do some more comics, and then I'll cover, for example, the Batman TV series. You get the idea.
Yeah, we'll go back and forth on this. So starting off, I actually really like the Golden Age comics, not because they're very well written. It is a product of its time, but just so much that I like them in the way that you could pretty much get away with anything as far as a story concept. Like, guy makes a magic lantern and a ring and creates hard light magical constructs with it to fight bad guys.
Yeah, or a big strong man who is the ideal American hero, who has no bias towards anyone and just saves people.
Ideal American father figure.
Father figure, yeah.
And I believe I might have mentioned this on the show before, but you see, the Superman was just this creation of these two kids in the Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a writer and an artist, both very poor. And well, Superman's original writer, I apologize for not remembering his name off the top of my head.
Hold on, I can
Uh,
pull.
Essentially, he had lost his father in a shooting, and well, being a writer, his natural reaction was to create the ideal father figure that
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be killed by a bullet.
Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Yep, that's them. Um, Joe Schuster.
Schuster, yeah.
But at the time, the idea of a superhero was alien. It was a phenomenon. No one had seen anything like this before. Everyone was doing like Indiana Jones style action comics or goofy bi-weekly comic strips or comic strip compilations.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, God help us,
Popeye the Sailor
Archie.
was a big thing at the time.
Popeye the Sailor was a big thing at the time. And he wasn't really a superhero as we know it, although technically, in
Right.
my opinion, he could qualify.
He does,
But
because spinach gives him his powers.
just like tequila makes me think I'm Superman. Uh, so they actually got turned down a lot until finally they had gotten picked up by Action Comics.
Was that what
And
DC was originally called? Was Action Comics?
it was actually DC was a bunch of different comic companies coming together.
Oh,
There was Action Comics.
Detective
Uh,
Comics, right?
yes, Detective Comics, DC.
Yeah.
But it kind of fused with Detective Comics after a few weeks of fame, well, not even a few weeks, a couple of years of fame for Superman. This guy, Bob Kane, or Bob Kahn at the time,
Mm-hmm.
was just a comic strip artist, and he got this letter hearing about how they want the next Superman. So he said, "Okay, I'm going to do Superman, but I'm going to do the opposite." Superman lost his whole world, and he never knew any of them. I'm going to make my hero lose his family and remember every single second of it. Superman has powers when he's here on Earth. I'm gonna have my superhero have no powers and rely purely on his reaction speed, and his deductive thinking. And so he came up with the image of Batman, whose real identity was not revealed until the last page of that comic. And this was kind of, again, it was a
Issue
new
one or
thing
just that story?
of issue 1.
Okay.
And actually, very early on, Batman even used a gun.
Oh, I remember that too.
Now, there was kind of an unbalance, especially, well, again, I can't remember this guy's name. The creator, there was a very renowned feminist at the time who, well, he was polygamous, I believe, or rather, he had a wife and he had a mistress who was kind of his co-wife.
Yeah,
and
it was completely consensual in all three ways.
Yeah, and essentially what had happened is he wrote this book saying about how comic books are not valid forms of entertainment because they're not focusing on building up people that could be built up. And the solution that DC Comics had for this was to hire him. And his problem was that his view was that the problem with comics was the blood curdling masculinity. So he created Wonder Woman, a very strong female character who was, clad in the stars and stripes and a big gold eagle. And this is the weird part. Her weakness in the beginning was getting tied up by a man. And they used this. Yes, I am.
The movie? Have you seen the movie that's a history of how Wonder Woman was created?
No. This is just based off of my readings and my, just my research in general.
I've seen bits of the movie, and the movie is actually pretty spot on to the records of what happened. And basically, how it was is what their late night hanky pankies is what inspired parts of the comics.
Well, good on him. Good on him. I'm not gonna judge. Anyway, actually, I can't judge. Honestly, he's
living it.
Well, I was gonna say he came up with a character that lasted a very long time. That was what I was gonna say, and for good reason, because Wonder Woman. Okay, there was a period of time when she stopped representing female empowerment and more represented, she was worried about her boyfriend and worried about, quote unquote girly things. And for a while there, Wonder Woman was just kind of a very subtle way of telling women where their place in society was now that the men were coming back from the war. But that did not last forever, as we know today. She once again became this symbol of female empowerment, a very compelling character with an amazing backstory that is fully developed now. I mean, fucking Greek gods are involved. She's sculpted from clay. She's queen of the friggin' Amazons, a legendary race of warriors said to be stronger than any army.
Would you have to question though? You're talking about Wonder Woman. Would you have to agree that Gail Gadot was the perfect Wonder Woman as far as live action portrayal goes?
She did a very good job as Wonder Woman, I believe.
If they reboot the DCEU, I say keep her.
Yes, I would say so too. I don't know if you can pull that off with a reboot. If it's a soft reboot, then maybe.
From my understanding is the movie itself stands on its own enough that you don't have to rely on the other movies for it to be a thing. Because in the opening, when you see like her getting her picture from Bruce Wayne and all that stuff, if you had rebooted any others, like rebooted Batman versus Superman and made that uncanon and just made another thing, you could easily connect redo scenes in the new canon to connect to those scenes, and it would still work.
Okay, yeah.
There was no reference of Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman other than the parts with the picture that she was looking for.
Okay. Anyway, back to the subject of the comics. As it went on, more and more superheroes started coming out, and of course we know many of them. The Flash came right after them.
Right.
And of course it was not the Flash that we know today. It was, well, Jay Garrick. He had the silver doughboy helmet with the wings on it and the sweater with the lightning bolt. He got his powers from inhaling fumes from hard water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and again, this is one of the things that I find really charming about the golden age of comics. Is like, again, you can get away with anything because it was... Uh-oh. Well, assuming he's still online and assuming we're still live, yes, what I'm saying is you can get away with a whole lot back in the day because it was science and magic, and, well, things were pulling away from magic. We were entering the atomic age. At the time, it was believed that science could do anything, and we are doing a lot with it today, but what I'm saying is that it didn't matter if that didn't prove to be the case if you actually examined it scientifically. It was about what sounds interesting, what's new.
Sorry, my computer died for a second.
I was just explaining more or less how, with these old comics, you can get away with any scientific mumbo babble, and that's a new term, by the way. You know, El Chizo, new El Chizo catchphrase, TM mumbo babble.
Oh, do we got a viewer?
No, I'm just letting the audience know.
I'm gonna get some ice and a drink. I'll be right back. You continue on.
Yeah. So this, of course, was before the concept of the Speed Force existed. He was really just this really fast guy who apparently could catch bullets. Of course, you know, they didn't know anything about robbing things of kinetic energy or anything like that. It was plain and simple. He was fast. And this started this whole chain of different superheroes coming out, like, say, Vigilante, the Cowboy, or the Star-Spangled Kid, or, well, Green Arrow was one of those ones that kind of wasn't ever really meant to catch on, but gained a really popular fan base. Sorry, not popular fan base, a very large fan base. He became a very popular character, especially in his relation to his counterpart, Batman. Because that's practically what he was, and they do make references to this throughout all DC media. I'm sure you're aware of it. If not, go watch Teen Titans. They do it between Green Arrow's sidekick and Robin. Oh, I just hit the mic there. So they were already building a very wide superhero base at the time, and it's kind of one of the reasons I think the comics get rebooted so much is because they kind of want to harken back to that age where everything was new and everything was wondrous. But I think, and most of it, yes, is the fact that stories end. They need someplace fresh to start new directions to go in. But how many times can you keep doing different origin stories? How many times can you keep doing the same origin story in a different way? So that's why I've missed the times when comics would just run forever.
Oh, yes.
As far as Golden Age of Comics goes, eventually they did come out with the Silver Age of Comics. They needed a fresh start. Everything was getting stale. New topics were coming in. They needed new things to write about. So they rebooted it. They came up with new origin stories. They turned Alan Scott, the Green Lantern who uses a magical ring, into Hal Jordan of the Green Lantern Corps.
But didn't they keep them canon still, those characters, instead of just completely making a new universe?
They did, and I like that. They found a weird way to do it. Essentially, these old superheroes were way back in the day, and but the thing is that Alan Scott and Hal Jordan didn't meet up until many issues in. And there was even an issue in which the Guardians of the Universe had considered replacing Hal with Alan. I've not read that issue.
Wasn't there an issue? Question: Wasn't there an issue where someone of color asked Hal Jordan why he defends people of many different colors but not brown?
Yes, and the answer to I believe the answer to that question is he can't just fight for Earth. He's got this entire sector. But it was an important question to be asking, and that's kind of the thing about comics is they can be used to ask really tough questions. Now, as we go on, writing techniques improve, but it is important occasionally to just be blunt about it. And in that scenario, the Green Lantern kind of represented a police force. See, comics can get very political, and they ask the questions I think we need to ask.
I agree.
For example, there was a period of time where before the New 52, when Superman renounced his American citizenship because he couldn't support anything in any other country on Earth without it reflecting on America. So, this is what I mean. Comic books can really get us thinking.
So currently, he's still renounced his citizenship?
No, we've had two universe reboots since then.
Okay.
I guess what else is there to talk about as far as the comics go, except for the fact that they are pretty much the best combination of word and picture, at least without being animated. Because
I have a question. Don't you hate that DC, like, now, even though it definitely wasn't this back then, but now DC is stereotyped as being all dark and gritty, and how Marvel is just all happy, and people have this false idea of what DC is just because of the movies?
Yes, it can seem like that. And the reasoning is, well, DC in the comics, it can be fun. It's just that it tries to go for a very mature, serious tone while it's doing so. The Flash in any series of comics is gonna be quippy. He's gonna be funny. Hal Jordan is gonna crack wise.
I feel like the DC comics, in reality, have the pretty much same exact tone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and people are so overshadowed by the badly made DC films in recent years that they fail to realize. Like, for example,
yes, I will say Marvel does employ a little more slapstick than DC does.
Like, I'll give you an example. People complain that DC is too dark and serious, and Marvel's better at having that fun. And then people will complain Superman is too goofy and hokey and ridiculously unrealistic. And then not serious enough, for example.
Okay.
There's like winning there.
Pretty much, but like I said, you can't judge an entire character's history on the movies.
Exactly. The movies,
because there is such a rich lore behind it. The movies are just scratching the surface.
Yeah. The only one I can say that does that really gives it justice is Christopher Reeve's Superman the movie. That is
now that we're on that subject, and I've been rambling for a while, let's get into the movies. Why don't you take point on
Well,
this?
let's start with the first notable live action DC thing, and that'll be George Reeves's Superman from the 1950s. Now, this series was a TV series that would run weekly. It was in black and white, and it starred Hollywood actor George Reeves as Superman. How they did this more or less with him on cables and stuff. There was actually, but actually, I actually won't bring up that movie. Basically, kids would it had a very big influence. I mean, kids really looked up to him. It even got to the point where kids actually tried testing his strength by like hitting him and stuff. That, interesting enough, I believe, wasn't the movie his downfall, kind of, or that series, him playing Superman?
It could be, yeah.
Because I saw this movie called Hollywoodland, which was like a documentary on George Reeves, starring Ben Affleck as the role. And apparently, so many kids got just hassled him, and one even almost shot him with a real gun, thinking he was actually Superman and stuff. That, along with other things, it just affected him, and eventually committed suicide.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And that is kind of why the whole "don't try this at home, kids" thing started. People used to think it was, this really irritating thing to put in a show that distracted from it, was totally unnecessary. These were kids in the fucking 50s, okay?
They
Did
actually
not have that warning. They didn't have any rating system, and look what happened, okay? Let this be a very tragic, albeit a very important, very important, albeit tragic lesson, that there is a reason we have warnings. There is a reason we put these on here. Kids, it's a case to case basis.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to interpret the world a little bit differently than we as adults do, because the world is still new to them. They're still learning about it. Yes, they're going to figure out some things a lot sooner today than they would have 50 years ago. Still, though, I mean, they're still learning. And yes, you can also, and yes, putting these messages on TV was important for the time. I think, though, now we're reaching a point where we realize how important it is for parents to interact with their kids and explain things to them. But
let's go on.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I can say about that series. I didn't watch much of it. I watched at least enough and read enough of the history to know what happened and how it affected people. But I'd say the next notable DC-related thing after that was Batman 1966 with Adam West.
Yes. Okay. The movie from that series is, I own it on pretty much every media state.
So you love it. I really love it then.
I just love how goofy it is. And
but yes, The Adventures of Batman and Robin. So the basic premise is we're taking a character who had a really dark past and doing a very light, goofy, fresh take on the character. I believe there's no reference to his origin in it, is there?
Well, for Batman, that was kind of the situation for the Silver Age. It's like, World War II was over. How do you go back? How do you go from fighting Nazis to to catching bank robbers? Mm-hmm. So they decided, okay, we're just going to go really over the top and throw everything at this wall and see what sticks. So they decided to take Batman and make him more accessible to kids.
Wasn't this version of Batman like he had no backstory with parents dying or anything? He was just Batman out of nowhere?
If it was part of the story, they did a very good job of avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea was that it was supposed to make kids excited to see it. What was the new adventure? Not was, this big psychological deconstruction of someone who is facing a traumatic event as a child and dealing with that as an adult.
Right.
No, this was, oh look, man dressed as bat, throw bat at man.
I loved a lot of I think my favorite thing about the Batman cartoons was just the dialogue and the over the top things they would use, like that shark repellent. Like, you remember when Batman is surfing against the Joker, and then while he's on the water in his bat swim trunks, he's spraying himself with bat shark repellent?
He used that in the movie as well, the shark repellent
Yes.
bat spray.
Or when the Joker's escape from jail was playing baseball, and then the home plate had a spring on it to launch him out.
Oh yeah, his famous Jack in the Box maneuver.
But yeah,
But
honestly, that's all I can give it. It was a great goofy show that required no train of thought, just pure comedy.
popcorn.
Yeah. Or the iconic part where he's running with the bomb.
Sometimes a guy just can't get rid of a bomb.
He throws it in the water, right?
I know he threw it behind a bunch of lead pipes because he didn't want to hit the duckies.
Oh yeah.
See, this is why it was a very far cry from what we know as Batman, and it's also kind of the reason I think people overreact a lot about changing the Batman character. Yes, he is supposed to be a dark character. That's the version I like the most, and it's the one I would like to see in movies, but let's face it, we all liked Adam West for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've got...
You would like to see a version of Batman from the Adam West version of Batman in the movie? You said that's the version you liked.
I liked it as Adam West did it. I've given you guys a tour of my battle jacket on this show before. You know I've got that calling Batman pin.
Mm-hmm. Wait, we did technically get a movie though, Lego Batman the movie.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that?
I didn't watch it.
Very well done. It's definitely 60s Batman modernized in a good way.
Okay.
I think that is the closest we will get to a 60s Batman modern thing, aside from the 2 animated movies Adam West did before he died.
And the world is smaller without him.
Exactly. But I think the next big thing after the Adam West series was Superman the movie.
Superman the movie, and maybe Tim Burton's
that came
Batman.
After.
Yeah, shortly there. Tim Burton's Batman was definitely next after that. But let's start with the Superman
movie. Cover the Superman series, because this is my all-time favorite.
Okay, you take point, man. You take point.
All right. So Superman the movie has a really interesting, really deep place in my heart personally. It was the first superhero movie I've ever watched. Had a whole lot of heart. The music by John Williams really brings the movie together. Has a lot of groundbreaking cinematography. And in my opinion, is the only Superman movie to really, or Superman series to really get Superman completely right with no flaws. Oops. I'll fix that later. But essentially, it stars Christopher Reeves, rest in peace, and Margot Kidder, also rest in peace, as Lois Lane and Superman, or Clark Kent. And they've gotten some pretty good A-list actors. I mean, they got Marlon Brando from The Godfather as Jor-El, which is in itself a very iconic role already. I mean, if you think Space Dad, the first thing comes to mind is a guy with really gray hair in a white aluminum foil suit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something alien.
Mm-hmm. With a very monotone voice. Krypton, my son.
Like, even more alien than Billy Sheehan. Just... And I mean that in the nicest of ways. Dude can play bass like a madman.
Mm-hmm. But yes, also Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. You can't beat that. Kevin Spacey was close. I'll give him that.
That series, there are a lot of mixed opinions about that series. The first one was good.
Second one was great too. 3 and 4, no one remembers for a reason.
Isn't there one where he starts flying around the Earth the other way,
That
and
was the
it
first
somehow, yeah.
I don't know. To me, I feel like the first 2 Superman movies get Superman completely right and are by far the best we will ever get. In my opinion, I grew up reading Superman comics also. I don't know how you feel. What do you think?
I think that series was, well, it was my first experience with Superman outside of a costume I had when I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in that thing, damn it. But yeah, so Superman was a big influence on my life. And it got to the point where I loved everything Superman related, but once I started realizing the direction superhero movies were going, I kind of got petered out on them, and I was like, I'm just going to sit here with my comics and wait because eventually the directors will get it right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, my question is, do you think Superman the movie was the perfect Superman movie?
It's the best we've got so far.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with it that I'm not seeing or that I'm overlooking?
The flying around the Earth thing was kind of cheesy.
Well, you know me, I love cheesy, and
fair enough, dude. Fair enough.
I felt that.
Like I just it felt like they were going for a serious tone, and then they had a stand-in writer one day, and he thought.
What? I think you're frozen. Are you there? Okay. Try your phone. I'll get you back on. Hold on a second, guys. We're having technical difficulties. I apologize. I'm just trying to fix a problem here. Sorry it's taking a bit. There. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'll end it. Well, anyways, thank you all for watching. I'm sorry we had technical difficulties tonight. We'll try to finish this next week or tomorrow. Thank you all, and good night, everybody.